From the Wells Fargo Center, where the 76ers pass the ball and the Flyers pass the puck, the president passes the torch.
Tonight, President Obama turns over leadership of the Democratic Party to Hillary Clinton and entrusts her with his legacy to preserve, protect, and extend.
Also tonight, the premiere of Citizen Kane. He's Clinton's number 2, but to many, he's Tim who?
It is a jam-packed hour with the Democrats on CBS.
Hillary will make us stronger together.
And she'll know how to mobilize the world around the causes that we believe in.
Hillary's ready to make history.
We are going to work to make sure that America has its best days ahead of us.
Night 3 of the Democratic National Convention in Philadelphia, and the arena is filled to the rafters. Good evening. I'm Scott Pelley.
And I'm Nora O'Donnell. That's right. I don't think there's an empty seat in this place, because this is the night that Senator Tim Kaine accepts the vice presidential nomination and introduces himself to America in both English and Spanish.
But this is also Barack Obama's night. He will deliver what amounts to a valedictory address and hand the party and his legacy to Hillary Clinton.
A short time ago, former Defense Secretary Leon Panetta addressed the convention, and he attacked Donald Trump for inviting the Russians to try to locate thousands of Hillary Clinton emails that he described as missing.
He asked the Russians to interfere in American politics. Think about that. Think about that for a moment. Donald Trump, who wants to be president of the United States, is asking one of our adversaries to engage in hacking or intelligence efforts against the United States of America to affect an election. As someone who was responsible for protecting our nation from cyber attacks, it is inconceivable to me that any presidential candidate would be that irresponsible. I say this out of a firm concern for the future of my children and my grandchildren. Donald Trump cannot become our commander-in-chief.
Leon Panetta, former defense secretary, former director of the CIA. John Dickerson is down at the podium for us tonight. John?
Scott, Leon Panetta rewrote his speech to add those lines. Those were in response to Donald Trump's press conference today, where he talked about the Russians and hacking. Donald Trump's strategists have said the key test for his campaign is whether people can see him as commander-in-chief at the end of those lonely decisions that only a president makes on national security. And tonight, Democrats are taking direct aim at Donald Trump on that issue. Leon Panetta talked about it, Joe Biden talked about it, and the idea is not just that he has the wrong views, but that he lacks the temperament for the office, and that he is outside even what Republicans think. Donald Trump has said some very nice things about Vladimir Putin. Here's what the spokesman for Speaker Paul Ryan of the House said today. He said Russia is a global menace and that Putin is a devious thug.
And on the progressive causes that make a difference for working families. Tim has been one of the Senate's
Nancy Cordes is on the floor. Nancy, we heard Vice President Biden earlier talking about needing a sane and competent leader.
That's right, and I think you'll hear Tim Kaine shortly make the same case. He's going to argue that experience in government, insiders have kind of been on the outs lately, but he'll say that his experience as a mayor, as a lieutenant governor, as a governor, and now as a senator gives him an understanding of how government works at all levels and why, in some cases, it doesn't work, Nora.
And now being introduced onto the stage is Virginia Senator Tim Kaine, Hillary Clinton's running mate.
Many people got a glimpse of Tim Kaine in your interview on 60 Minutes, Scott, but this will really be the first introduction for many millions of Americans that don't live in the state of Virginia.
Well, that's right. As you know, Nora, he has been a city councilman, a mayor of Richmond. He became lieutenant governor, then governor of Virginia, now is a United States senator of Virginia. He's not well known, and he's not well known to Donald Trump. Twice today in Donald Trump's news conference, he said that Tim Kaine had done a terrible job for New Jersey, and he wasn't well liked in New Jersey. Well, that may well be true because he has lived his entire life in Virginia.
His wife, an official there in the state. Here is Tim Kaine.
Hello, Philadelphia. Hello, Democratic family. I want to start off by thanking my beautiful wife, Ann, and my 3 wonderful children, Nat, Woody, and Anella. They're sitting right up there. You know, my son Nat deployed with his Marine Battalion just 2 days ago. He deployed overseas to protect and defend the very NATO allies that Donald Trump says he now wants to abandon. Semper Fi, Nat. Semper Fi. My parents and my in-laws are here, our siblings and their spouses, our nieces and nephews, and hundreds of friends from Virginia and beyond. I love seeing you front and center. Including my friend of 37 years, Senior Senator Mark Warner, my great Governor Terry McAuliffe, and my great friend and Congressman Bobby Scott. We love you all. Today, for my wife Ann and every strong woman in this country, for Nat, Woody, and Anella, and every young person starting out in life to make their own dreams real, for every man and woman serving our country in the military, at home or abroad, for every working family working hard to get ahead and stay ahead, for my parents and in-laws and every senior citizen who hopes for a dignified retirement with health care and research to end diseases like Alzheimer's. For every American who wants our country to be a beloved community where people aren't demeaned because of who they are, but rather respected for their contributions to this nation. And for all of us who know that the brightest future for our country is the one that we build together, and for my friend Hillary Clinton, I humbly accept my party's nomination to be Vice President of the United States. Thank you. Can I be honest with you about something? Can I be honest with you about something? I never expected to be here, but let me tell you how it happened. I was born in Minnesota and grew up in Kansas City. My folks weren't much into politics. My dad ran a union ironworking shop in the stockyards. And my mom was his best salesman. My 2 brothers and I pitched in to work during summers and weekends, And you know, that's how small family businesses do it. My parents, Al and Kathy, here tonight and going strong, they taught me about hard work and about kindness, and most especially about faith. I went to a Jesuit boys' high school, Rockhurst High School. Wow, that's a big line for the Jesuits. Now we had a motto in my school, men for others. And it was there that my faith became something vital, my North Star for orienting my life. And when I left high school, I knew that I wanted to battle for social justice. Like so many of you, like so many of you. That's why I took a year off from law school to volunteer with Jesuit missionaries in Honduras. I taught kids how to be welders and carpenters. Y allá aprendí los valores del pueblo, fe y familia y trabajo, faith, family, and work. Faith, family, and work. Los mismos valores de la comunidad latina aquí en nuestro país. Somos americanos todos. Somos americanos todos. And let me tell you what really struck me there. I got a first-hand look at a different system, a dictatorship where a few people at the top had all of the power and everybody else got left out. Now that convinced me that we've got to advance opportunity for everybody, no matter where you come from, how much money you have, what you look like, how you worship, or who you love. Back in 1970, in Virginia, a Republican governor named Linwood Holton believed exactly the same thing. He integrated Virginia's public schools so that black and white kids could finally learn together, and then the family enrolled their own kids, including his daughter Anne, in those integrated inner-city schools. Many years later, Anne went off to college, and she brought those lessons from that pivotal time with her. And then one day, in a study group, she met this goofy guy who had been off teaching kids in Honduras. Well, Anne and I have now been married almost 32 years, and I am the luckiest husband in the world. You know, let me tell you something. Anne's parents, Lynn and Jinx, are here today, 90 plus and going strong. 90 plus and going strong. Linwood Holton, he's still a Republican, but he's voting for an awful lot of Democrats these days. An awful lot of Democrats. And here's why. He's voting for Democrats because any party that would nominate Donald Trump for president has moved too far away from his party of Lincoln. And I tell you, if any of you are looking for that party of Lincoln, we've got a home for you right here in the Democratic Party. Linwood's example helped inspire me as a civil rights lawyer. Over 17 years, I took on banks, landlords, real estate firms, local governments, anybody who treated anybody unfairly. I had a 6-year case against an insurance company that was discriminating against minority neighborhoods all across the United States in issuing homeowners insurance. Folks, Democratic friends, these are the battles that I have fought my entire life. And that's the story. And that's the story of how I decided to run for office. My city of Richmond was divided and discouraged in the early 1990s. We had an epidemic of gun violence that was overwhelming our low-income neighborhoods. People were pointing fingers and casting blame instead of finding answers. And I couldn't stand it. So I ran for city council, and I won that first race more than 20 years ago by a landslide margin of 94 votes. And I've said ever since, if I'm good at anything in politics, it's because I started at the local level, listening to people, learning about their lives, and trying to get results. I see a mayor here who knows what I'm talking about. Later, I became mayor of Richmond, lieutenant governor, and then the 70th governor of Virginia. Now, I was a hard times governor. I had to steer my state through the deepest recession since the 1930s. But hey, tough times don't last, and tough people do. And can I tell you that Virginians are tough people? We are tough people. And we're smart, too. We achieved national recognition for our work. Best managed state, best state for business, best state for a child to be raised, low unemployment, high median income. We shed tears along the way. We shed tears especially together in the days after that horrible mass shooting at Virginia Tech that killed 32 people, from beautiful 19-year-old students to 70-plus-year-old Romanian-born Holocaust survivors. And we shed tears and held each other up, but afterwards we rolled up our sleeves and we fixed a loophole in the background record check system so that we could make our Commonwealth safer. And we got to do that in the nation. We invested in our people, expanding pre-K and higher ed, because we all know in this room that education is the key to all we want to be. All we want to be. And now I have the honor of representing my Commonwealth in the U.S. Senate. I work on the Armed Services and Foreign Relations Committees to keep us safe at home and strong in the world. I work on the Budget Committee with our great Democratic leader of that committee, a spectacular senator who used to be a mayor, Vermont's Bernie Sanders. And everybody, we all should feel the burn, and we all should not want to get burned by the other guy. On that Budget Committee under Bernie's leadership, we fight for investments in education, healthcare, research, transportation, and I also serve on the Aging Committee to make sure that seniors like my folks have a secure retirement and don't get targeted by rip-off artists who will scam them out of their savings or overcharge them for prescription drugs. Can I tell you a funny thing about the Senate? Can I tell you a funny thing about the Senate? That sounds like a yes. I spend a lot of time with Republican senators who, once they have made sure that nobody is listening, will tell you how fantastic a senator that Hillary Clinton was. Now look, this journey that I've told you about has convinced me over and over again that God has created in our country a beautiful and rich tapestry, an incredible cultural diversity that succeeds when we embrace everybody in love and battle back against the forces, the dark forces of division. We're all neighbors, and we must love our neighbors as ourselves. Now, Hillary Clinton and I are compañeros de alma. And we share this basic belief. It's simple. Do all the good you can and serve one another. Pretty simple. Pretty simple. That's what I'm about. That's what you're about. That's what Bernie Sanders is about. That's what Joe and Jill Biden are about. That's what Barack and Michelle Obama are about. And that's what Hillary Clinton is about. Now, si se puede, si se puede, si se puede. Yes, we can. Yes, we can. Yes, we can. Hey, last week in Cleveland, we heard a lot about trust. So let's talk about trust. Let's talk about trust. I want to tell you why I trust Hillary Clinton. First, she's consistent. She has battled to put kids and families first since she was a teenager. In good times and bad, in victory and defeat, in and out of office, through hell or high water, fighting for underprivileged kids, working at the Children's Defense Fund, fighting to get health insurance for 8 million low-income children when she was First Lady, fighting for the well-being of women and children around the world. Hey, can I offer you a little tip? When you want to know something about the character of somebody in public life, look to see if they have a passion that began long before they were in office and that they have consistently held it throughout their career. Do they have a passion? Did it start before they were in office? Have they held on to it consistently? Folks, Hillary has a passion for kids and families. Donald Trump has a passion too. It's himself. And with Hillary, it's not just words, it's accomplishments. She delivers. As senator, after 9/11, I got my New Yorkers right here and my Virginians right here. She battled congressional Republicans to care for the first responders who went into the towers, who went into the Pentagon and saved the victims of those terrorist attacks. As Secretary of State, she implemented tough sanctions against Iran to pave the way for a diplomatic breakthrough to curtail a nuclear weapons program. And she wasn't afraid. She wasn't afraid. She wasn't afraid to stand up against thugs and dictators. And as a key part of the Obama National Security Team, they decided to go to the ends of the earth to wipe out Osama bin Laden. Hey, do y'all remember Carla, the little girl that we heard from on Monday night, who was worried that her parents would be deported? Carla said she trusts Hillary to keep them together. And do you remember the mothers of the movement last night? They said they trust Hillary to keep other mothers, sons, and daughters safe. And on a personal level, as he's serving our nation abroad, I trust Hillary Clinton with our son's life. Now, you know who I don't trust? I wonder. Donald Trump. Donald Trump. Trump is a guy who promises a lot, but you might have noticed he's got a way of saying the same two words every time he makes his biggest, hugest promises.
Believe me. It's going to be great, believe me. We're going to build a wall and make Mexico pay for it, believe me. We're going to destroy ISIS so fast, believe me. There's nothing suspicious in my tax returns, believe me.
By the way, does anybody in this massive auditorium believe that Donald Trump's been paying his fair share of taxes? Does anybody here believe that Trump ought to release his tax returns just like every other presidential candidate in modern history? Of course he should. Hey, Donald, what are you hiding? And yet, Donald still says, believe me. Believe me. Believe me? Believe me? I mean, here's the thing. Most people, when they run for president, they don't just say, believe me. They respect you enough to tell you how they will get things done. I mean, that's what most people who run for president do. In fact, you can go on HillaryClinton.com right now and find out exactly how she'll make the biggest investment in new jobs in a generation, how she'll defend and build on Wall Street reform, how she'll reform our immigration system to create a path to citizenship, how she'll make it possible to graduate from college debt-free. You can see how she'll protect Roe v. Wade, guarantee equal pay for women, and make paid family leave a reality. All it takes is one click. All it takes is one click, and we can see how she'll do it, how she'll pay for it, and how we'll benefit by it. Not Donald Trump. Not Donald Trump. He never tells you how he's going to do any of the things he says he'll do. He just says, believe me. So here's the question. Here's the question. Do you really believe him? I mean, Donald Trump's whole career says you better not. Small contractors, companies just like my dad's, believed him when he said that he'd pay them to build a casino in Atlantic City. They did the work, they hung the drywall, they poured the concrete, but a year after opening, Trump filed for bankruptcy. He walked away with millions, and they got pennies on the dollar. Some of them went out of businesses, all because they believed Donald Trump. Retirees and families in Florida, they believed Donald Trump when he said that he'd build them some condos, thousands of them. They paid their deposits, but the condos, they were never built. He just pocketed their money and walked away. They lost tens of thousands of dollars, all because they believed Donald Trump. Charity after charity Charity after charity believed Donald Trump when he said he would contribute to them. And thousands of Trump University students believed Donald Trump when he said he would help them succeed. They got stiffed. He says, believe me. Well, his creditors, his contractors, his laid-off employees, and his ripped-off students did just that, and they all got hurt. Folks, you cannot believe one word that comes out of Donald Trump's mouth. Not one word. Not one word. Not one word. And I'll tell you, to me, it just seems like our nation, it is just too great to put it in the hands of a slick-talking, empty-promising, self-promoting, one-man wrecking crew. But don't take it from me. Don't take it from me. Take it from former First Lady Barbara Bush. Barbara Bush said she doesn't know how any woman could vote for him after his offensive comments about women. Any woman. Any woman. Or John McCain's chief economic advisor during the '08 race, who estimate that Trump's promises would cause America to lose 3.5 million jobs. Or the independent analysts who found that Trump's tax plan given to the wealthy and the biggest corporations would rack up $30 trillion in debt. Or how about this? How about this? John Kasich, the Republican governor who had the honor of hosting the Republican convention in Cleveland, but he wouldn't even attend it because he thinks Donald Trump is such a moral disaster. Or take it from the guy who co-wrote Donald Trump's autobiography. Here's what he said about Trump, quote, "Lying is second nature to him." So do you believe him? I don't know. How about on this side? Do you guys believe him? I mean, do you guys believe him? Is there anyone in this building who believes him? The next president will face many challenges. We better elect the candidate who's proven she can be trusted with the job. The candidate who's proven that she is ready for the job. And when I say ready, I use ready for a very specific reason. When I lived in Honduras, I learned something. The best compliment that you could pay to somebody was to say that they were listo, ready. Not inteligente, smart. Not amable, friendly. Not rico, rich. But listo, listo. Because what listo means in Spanish is this. It means prepared. It means battle-tested. It means rock solid, up for anything, never backing down. And friends, Hillary Clinton, she's lista. Hillary Clinton is lista. She is. She is ready. She is ready. She's ready because of her faith. She's ready because of her heart. She's ready because of her experience, and she's ready because she knows that in America we are stronger when we are together. My fellow Democrats, this week we start the next chapter in our great and proud story. Thomas declared all men were equal, and Abigail remembered the women. Woodrow brokered the peace, and Eleanor broke down the barriers. Jack told us what to ask, and Lyndon answered the call. Martin had a dream, and Cesar y Dolores said, "Si se puede," and Harvey gave his life. Bill built a bridge into the 21st century, and Barack gave us hope. And now Hillary is ready. She's ready to fight. She's ready to win, and she is ready to lead. God bless all of you. On to victory, and thank you, Philadelphia.
Tim Kaine, Senator of Virginia, introducing himself to the country. But a man who needs no introduction to Virginia. He has won every election he has ever run. City government, state government, federal government. He has never lost a race. Gayle King is down on the convention floor with the delegates. Gayle?
I am here. Tim Kaine just said tough times don't last, but tough people do. I was talking to the Virginia delegates, and they say Tim Kaine is tough. They were so excited for him tonight. They described him as a man of integrity, a man of strength, who told the country exactly what they needed to hear tonight. Every time he spoke Spanish, they went crazy. Every time he took a dig at Donald Trump, they went crazier. And they loved when he praised Hillary Clinton. But people are most excited tonight, of course, to hear from President Barack Obama. And a delegate from North Carolina said something I thought was really cute. She said, "I sure hope he does his lovely wife proud." We will soon see. Scott, back to you.
Gayle, I'll take it, and that will be a competition because, as Joe Biden said earlier tonight, we know who gave the best speech at this convention. That was Michelle Obama on Monday night, and we know Barack Obama, after hearing that speech, stayed up till 3 a.m. writing his own speech.
Yeah.
John Dickerson, what did you think about this speech by Governor Kaine?
Well, Barack Obama was probably not trying out his Donald Trump impersonation, but Tim Kaine offered us several impersonations of Donald Trump there. I thought what was interesting was when he was testifying to the trust question with Hillary Clinton. We know that is the undertone, the big question she has to answer, and with voters who find her not trustworthy. He mentioned that he felt that he could trust her with his son's life, his son deploying just recently with NATO. I thought that was an interesting line. In addition to mocking Donald Trump, he also talked about, again, we hear this constant theme, Republicans who are out of step with Donald Trump. First, he talked about Linwood Holton, his father-in-law, the governor of Virginia, Republican, saying that he didn't have a place in the Republican Party anymore, even though he still was a Republican. Then he quoted Barbara Bush. Earlier tonight, John McCain was mentioned. So this is just a continuing theme of calling out Republicans who are out of step with Donald Trump.
John, that's right, and it was extraordinary, too, to hear Tim Kaine, who is bilingual, use much of his speech to say "si se puede," which is a familiar refrain among labor unions and others. Yes, we can, and also say she is lista. She is ready to be president of the United States. That is outreach. Outreach to the fastest growing demographic in this country, Hispanics. Having learned Spanish while he was a Catholic missionary in Honduras and living with Honduran people and their families, understanding them well. So there was one speaker today who was not a Democrat. He was the former mayor of New York, Michael Bloomberg. He used to be a Democrat, but he left the party 16 years ago and became an independent. But he was a featured speaker here today, and let's listen to a little bit of what Michael Bloomberg had to say.
Trump says he wants to run the nation like he's running his business? God help us. I'm a New Yorker, and I know a con when I see one.
Charlie, extraordinary to see the former mayor here. He called Donald Trump risky, reckless, and a radical choice.
Michael Bloomberg is a rich New Yorker who started a business. He's a former mayor, he's a politician. He knows Donald Trump. He knows Hillary Clinton. And he went at what is Donald Trump's essence, why he thinks he can be a good president, because he's a good businessman. He pointed out bankruptcies, he pointed out the people that had been hurt, and he finally made an argument for risk, which is a business term, saying that the country could not be put at risk, and therefore he was voting for Hillary Clinton, who he said during the tough times had been bipartisan and had been a listener.
Charlie, Senator Kaine spoke again and again about trust.
Yes.
He has a son in the Marine Corps overseas. He said, I trust the life of our son to Hillary Clinton. Why are they hitting that theme so hard?
I think they're doing that for a couple of reasons. Number one, that's what Mrs. Obama did too. She said, I would trust my children with him. It's one, trust, but it also goes to the issue of family. You know, that's where trust begins, and they are doing that time after time to say you can believe in her, you can trust her, because her life has shown in ways that you don't know how she's been a trustworthy person.
Reintroducing Hillary Clinton.
Yeah, that's been part of it. Charlie, thank you. All right, still ahead, President Obama, and CBS News coverage of the Democratic National Convention continues from Philadelphia in just a moment.
You cannot believe one word that comes out of Donald Trump's mouth.
He's trying to tell us he cares about the middle class. Give me a break. That's a bunch of malarkey.
It is imperative that we elect Hillary Clinton as the next president of the United States.
Tonight, Joe Biden made his last speech to a Democratic convention as vice president, and he did not waste the opportunity. Here is some of what he said.
We've had candidates before who attempted to get elected by appealing to our fears, but they've never succeeded because we do not scare easily. We never bow. We never bend. We never break when confronted with crisis. No, we endure, we overcome, and we always, always, always move forward.
We're joined now by Bob Schieffer, our CBS News colleague, who's covered every convention since 1968. Bob, how does this stack up?
Well, I'll tell you, Joe Biden made a good speech. A lot of people wanted Joe Biden to run for president. He wanted to run. He had the family tragedy. He didn't, but he showed again he can make a political speech. But, you know, I got to say, you know, I'm not sure we're going to remember this night so much for what is said in this hall as what Donald Trump said down in Florida today when he called for the Russians to help him win this election. That's the first in American politics. And the more I think about this, I think this election may be decided on what Donald Trump said today and the temperament of the man who said those words. People here were frightened. Some laughed aloud. They were aghast. People simply couldn't believe the words coming out of his mouth. Senator Chris Coons of Delaware said to me, he said, it's almost as if he's decided he doesn't want to be president and he's looking for some way to disqualify himself. I mean, he said that as a joke, and I don't believe that to be true. What he said tonight may well be the turning point in this election.
And he said in the same news conference that Tim Kaine, Hillary Clinton's running mate, had done a terrible job for New Jersey, and he wasn't well liked in New Jersey, not realizing that Kaine was a senator from Virginia.
And that Tom Kaine was the governor of New Jersey, and he kind of got him mixed up. But I guess that happened.
A Republican governor of New Jersey.
Exactly right.
But we saw that with Leon Panetta saying to actually invite the Russians to try and release, if they could, these missing emails is irresponsible. It's just simply irresponsible.
And every president who's ever occupied the office says this thing: my ultimate responsibility is to keep the American people safe.
And you know, Nora, we know Leon Panetta heard Donald Trump this morning and rewrote the speech to put that in, to toughen it up. And he added the line, we can't afford to have an irresponsible finger on the trigger.
Leon Panetta, who led the CIA that killed Osama bin Laden.
Yeah.
We're watching also a multi-pronged attack on Donald Trump's policies and also his character tonight. Nancy Cordes is on the floor. And Nancy, you heard, too, the vice president say at one point, no matter where you were raised, how could you take pleasure in saying you're fired, which is that signature line by Donald Trump.
That's right, Nora, and it was interesting. The first couple of nights here at the convention, people noted that a lot of these speakers weren't mentioning Donald Trump by name, and they worried that perhaps Democrats weren't going after them, after Donald Trump, hard enough. But you can't say that tonight because it's been this multi-pronged attack. Leon Panetta going after him on national security, Michael Bloomberg going after him on the economy, Joe Biden going after him on the middle class, and just now Tim Kaine going after him on just about everything. He sort of set expectations pretty low. It was pretty clever in the weeks before this convention. He said he was a boring guy, but he was anything but boring tonight. He had this entire crowd eating out of the palm of his hand.
And sources tell us that President Obama will mention Donald Trump by name several times tonight.
And we're awaiting President Obama. He'll be on stage shortly, and we'll be right back from Philadelphia.
There were times.
If any of you are looking for that party of Lincoln, we've got a home for you right here in the Democratic Party.
Back now from Philadelphia with Nora O'Donnell and our continuing coverage of the Democratic National Convention. This hall, which is filled to the rafters. In fact, the fire marshal had to close off the floor because there were too many people in here. This hall is now watching a film about President Obama as we await him to take the stage in the next couple of minutes. John Dickerson is down by the podium for us. John?
Scott, what this film is about is two things. One, it's reminding everybody in the hall why they love Barack Obama, but it is a systematic tour through his presidency. A lot of dark moments, a lot of difficult moments, a lot of pictures of a president by himself making lonely decisions. That is about President Obama, but it's also about what the job requires. And that job requires, we've heard the theme all night, somebody who has an even temperament. And that's the message they're sending with this video, and that we'll hear from Barack Obama tonight when he speaks. One other thing is when we talked to President Obama this weekend, he talked about passing the baton. This is the baton passing moment where he hands off to Hillary Clinton.
His temperament.
John, thank you so much. And, you know, Charlie, it's interesting to see a convention celebrate an incumbent president.
Indeed. Jimmy Carter was not celebrated. He wasn't. He was a president, been there.
Bill
George
Clinton.
Bush,
Bill Clinton. Al Gore trying to root.
I think the interesting thing about the film and President Obama, too, is that he's sometimes viewed as detached. What they're showing is someone very connected and emotional and feeling.
It was 12 years ago on this very night that a state senator from Illinois burst onto the national political scene, Barack Obama making the keynote address at the Democratic Convention in Boston.
And Bob, this may now be one of Barack Obama's last big speeches.
Yeah. I interviewed him on the Sunday before when he made that speech. I'll never forget it.
And here now is the President of the United States with his last speech to a Democratic National Convention as President.
United States of America, Barack Obama.
Let's see if
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you, everybody. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much, everybody. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, everybody. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much, everybody. I love you back. Hello, America. Hello, Democrats. So, 12 years ago tonight, I addressed this convention for the very first time. You met my two little girls, Malia and Sasha, now two amazing young women who just fill me with pride. You fell for my brilliant wife and partner, Michelle. Who has made me a better father and a better man, who's gone on to inspire our nation as First Lady, and who somehow hasn't aged a day. I know, the same cannot be said for me. My girls remind me all the time, wow, you've changed so much, Daddy. And then they try to clean it up. Not bad, just more mature. and it's true. I was so young that first time in Boston. And look, I'll admit it, maybe I was a little nervous addressing such a big crowd. But I was filled with faith. Faith in America. The generous, big-hearted, hopeful country that made my story, that made all of our stories possible. Now, lots happened over the years. And while this nation has been tested by war, and it's been tested by recession, and all manner of challenges, I stand before you again tonight, after almost 2 terms as your president, to tell you I am more optimistic about the future of America than ever before. How could I not be? After all that we've achieved together, after the worst recession in 80 years, we fought our way back. We've seen deficits come down, 401ks recover, an auto industry set new records, unemployment reach 8-year lows, and our businesses create 15 million new jobs. After a century of trying, we declared that health care in America is not a privilege for a few, it is a right for everybody. After decades of talk, we finally began to wean ourselves off foreign oil. We doubled our production of clean energy. We brought more of our troops home to their families. And we delivered justice to Osama bin Laden.
Through diplomacy, we shut down Iran's nuclear weapons program. We opened up a new chapter with the people of Cuba, brought nearly 200 nations together around a climate agreement that could save this planet for our children. We put policies in place to help students with loans, protect consumers from fraud, cut veterans' homelessness almost in half. And through countless acts of quiet courage, America learned that love has no limits, and marriage equality is now a reality across the land. By so many measures, our country is stronger and more prosperous than it was when we started. And through every victory and every setback, I've insisted that change is never easy and never quick, that we wouldn't meet all of our challenges in one term or one presidency or even in one lifetime. So tonight I'm here to tell you that, yes, we've still got more work to do. More work to do for every American still in need of a good job or a raise, paid leave or a decent retirement, for every child who needs a sturdier ladder out of poverty or world-class education, for everyone who has not yet felt the progress of these past 7.5 years. We need to keep making our streets safer and our criminal justice system fair, our homeland more secure, our world more peaceful and sustainable for the next generation. We're not done perfecting our union or living up to our founding creed, that all of us are created equal. All of us are free in the eyes of God. And that work involves a big choice this November. I think it's fair to say this is not your typical election. It's not just a choice between parties or policies, the usual debates between left and right. This is a more fundamental choice about who we are as a people and whether we stay true to this great American experiment in self-government. Look, we Democrats have always had plenty of differences with the Republican Party, and there's nothing wrong with that. It's precisely this contest of ideas that pushes our country forward. But what we heard in Cleveland last week wasn't particularly Republican, and it sure wasn't conservative. What we heard was a deeply pessimistic vision of a country where we turn against each other and turn away from the rest of the world. There were no serious solutions to pressing problems, just the fanning of resentment and blame and anger and hate. And that is not the America I know. The America I know is full of courage and optimism and ingenuity. The America I know is decent and generous. Sure, we have real anxieties about paying the bills and protecting our kids, caring for a sick parent. We get frustrated with political gridlock and worry about racial divisions. We are shocked and saddened by the madness of Orlando or Nice. There are pockets of America that never recovered from factory closures. Men who took pride in hard work and providing for their families who now feel forgotten. Parents who wonder whether their kids will have the same opportunities that we had. All of that is real. We are challenged to do better, to be better. But as I've traveled this country, through all 50 states, as I've rejoiced with you and mourned with you, what I have also seen more than anything is what is right with America. I see people working hard and starting businesses. I see people teaching kids and serving our country. I see engineers inventing stuff, doctors coming up with new cures. I see a younger generation full of energy and new ideas, not constrained by what is, ready to seize what ought to be. And most of all, I see Americans of every party, every background, every faith, who believe that we are stronger together. Black, white, Latino, Asian, Native American, young, old, gay, straight, men, women, folks with disabilities, all pledging allegiance under the same proud flag to this big, bold country that we love. That's what I see. That's the America I know. And there is only one candidate in this race who believes in that future, has devoted her life to that future, a mother and a grandmother who would do anything to help our children thrive. A leader with real plans to break down barriers and blast through glass ceilings and widen the circle of opportunity to every single American, the next president of the United States, Hillary Clinton. Now, 8 years ago, that's right. Let me tell you, 8 years ago, you may remember Hillary and I were rivals for the Democratic nomination. We battled for a year and a half. Let me tell you, it was tough, because Hillary was tough. I was worn out. She was doing everything I was doing, but just like Ginger Rogers, it was backwards in heels. And every time I thought I might have the race won, Hillary just came back stronger. But after it was all over, I asked Hillary to join my team. And she was a little surprised. Some of my staff was surprised. But ultimately, she said yes, because she knew that what was at stake was bigger than either of us. And for 4 years, I had a front row seat to her intelligence, her judgment, and her discipline. I came to realize that her unbelievable work ethic wasn't for praise, it wasn't for attention, that she was in this for everyone who needs a champion. I understood that after all these years, she has never forgotten just who she's fighting for. Hillary's still got the tenacity that she had as a young woman, working at the Children's Defense Fund, going door to door to ultimately make sure kids with disabilities could get a quality education. She's still got the heart she showed as our First Lady, working with Congress to help push through a children's health insurance program that to this day protects millions of kids. She's still seared with the memory of every American she met who lost loved ones on 9/11. Which is why, as a senator from New York, she fought so hard for funding to help first responders, to help the city rebuild. Why, as Secretary of State, she sat with me in the Situation Room and forcefully argued in favor of the mission that took out bin Laden. You know, nothing truly prepares you for the demands of the Oval Office. You can read about it, You can study it, but until you've sat at that desk, you don't know what it's like to manage a global crisis or send young people to war. But Hillary's been in the room. She's been part of those decisions. She knows what's at stake in the decisions our government makes. What's at stake for the working family, for the senior citizen, for the small business owner, for the soldier, for the veteran. And even in the midst of crisis, she listens to people and she keeps her cool and she treats everybody with respect. And no matter how daunting the odds, no matter how much people try to knock her down, she never, ever quits. That is the Hillary I know. That's the Hillary I've come to admire. And that's why I can say with confidence, there has never been a man or a woman, not me, not Bill, nobody, more qualified than Hillary Clinton to serve as President of the United States of America. I hope you don't mind, Bill, but I was just telling the truth, man. And by the way, in case you're wondering about her judgment, take a look at her choice of running mate. Tim Kaine is as good a man, as humble and as committed a public servant as anybody that I know. I know his family. I love Ann. I love their kids. He will be a great vice president. He will make Hillary a better president, just like my dear friend and brother Joe Biden has made me a better president. Now, Hillary has real plans to address the concerns she's heard from you on the campaign trail. She's got specific ideas to invest in new jobs, to help workers share in their company's profits, to help put kids in preschool and put students through college without taking on a ton of debt. That's what leaders do. And then there's Donald Trump. Don't boo, vote. Yeah, the Donald is not really a plans guy. He's not really a facts guy either. He calls himself a business guy, which is true, but I have to say I know plenty of businessmen and women who've achieved remarkable success without leaving a trail of lawsuits and unpaid workers and people feeling like they got cheated. Does anyone really believe that a guy who spent his 70 years on this earth showing no regard for working people is suddenly going to be your champion, your voice? If so, you should vote for him. But if you're someone who's truly concerned about paying your bills, if you're really concerned about pocketbook issues and seeing the economy grow and creating more opportunity for everybody, then the choice isn't even close. If you want someone with a lifelong track record of fighting for higher wages and better benefits and a fairer tax code and a bigger voice for workers and stronger regulations on Wall Street, then you should vote for Hillary Clinton. And if you're rightly concerned about who's going to keep you and your family safe in a dangerous world, well, the choice is even clearer. Hillary Clinton is respected around the world. not just by leaders, but by the people they serve. I have to say this. People outside of the United States do not understand what's going on in this election. They really don't. Because they know Hillary, they've seen her work. She's worked closely with our intelligence teams, our diplomats, our military. She has the judgment and the experience and the temperament to meet the threat from terrorism. It's not new to her. Our troops have pounded ISIL without mercy, taking out their leaders, taking back territory. And I know Hillary won't relent until ISIL is destroyed. She will finish the job. And she will do it without resorting to torture or banning entire religions from entering our country. She is fit and she is ready to be the next commander-in-chief. Meanwhile, Donald Trump calls our military a disaster. Apparently, he doesn't know the men and women who make up the strongest fighting force the world has ever known. He suggests America is weak. He must not hear the billions of men and women and children from the Baltics to Burma who still look to America to be the light of freedom and dignity and human rights. He cozies up to Putin, praises Saddam Hussein, tells our NATO allies that stood by our side after 9/11 that they have to pay up if they want our protection. Well, America's promises do not come with a price tag. We meet our commitments. We bear our burdens. That's one of the reasons why almost every country on earth sees America as stronger and more respected today than they did 8 years ago when I took office. America is already great. America is already strong. And I promise you, our strength, our greatness, does not depend on Donald Trump. In fact, it doesn't depend on any one person. And that, in the end, may be the biggest difference in this election. The meaning of our democracy. Ronald Reagan called America a shining city on a hill. Donald Trump calls it a divided crime scene that only he can fix. It doesn't matter to him that illegal immigration and the crime rate are as low as they've been in decades, because he's not actually offering any real solutions to those issues. He's just offering slogans, and he's offering fear. He's betting that if he scares enough people, he might score just enough votes to win this election. And that's another bet that Donald Trump will lose. And the reason he'll lose it is because he's selling the American people short. We're not a fragile people. We're not a frightful people. Our power doesn't come from some self-declared savior promising that he alone can restore order as long as we do things his way. We don't look to be ruled. Our power comes from those immortal declarations first put to paper right here in Philadelphia all those years ago. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that we, the people, can form a more perfect union. That's who we are. That's our birthright, the capacity to shape our own destiny. That's what drove patriots to choose revolution over tyranny, and our GIs to liberate a continent. It's what gave women the courage to reach for the ballot, and marchers to cross a bridge in Selma, and workers to organize and fight for collective bargaining and better wages. America's never been about what one person says he'll do for us. It's about what can be achieved by us, together, through the hard and slow and sometimes frustrating, but ultimately enduring work of self-government. And that's what Hillary Clinton understands. She knows that this is a big, diverse country. She has seen it. She's traveled. She's talked to folks. And she understands that most issues are rarely black and white. She understands that even when you're 100% right, getting things done requires compromise. That democracy doesn't work if we constantly demonize each other. She knows that for progress to happen, we have to listen to each other and see ourselves in each other and fight for our principles, but also fight to find common ground, no matter how elusive that may sometimes seem. Hillary knows we can work through racial divides in this country when we realize the worry black parents feel when their son leaves the house isn't so different than what a brave cop's family feels when he puts on the blue and goes to work. That we can honor police and treat every community fairly. We can do that. And she knows that acknowledging problems that have festered for decades isn't making race relations worse. It's creating the possibility for people of goodwill to join and make things better. Hillary knows we can insist on a lawful and orderly immigration system while still seeing striving students and their toiling parents as loving families, not criminals or rapists. Families that came here for the same reason our forebears came, to work and to study and to make a better life in a place where we can talk and worship and love as we please. She knows their dream is quintessentially American, and the American dream is something no wall will ever contain. These are the things that Hillary knows. It can be frustrating, this business of democracy. Trust me, I know. Hillary knows too. When the other side refuses to compromise, progress can stall. People are hurt by the inaction. Supporters can grow impatient and worry that you're not trying hard enough, that you've maybe sold out. But I promise you, when we keep at it, when we change enough minds, when we deliver enough votes, then progress does happen. And if you doubt that, just ask the 20 million more people who have health care today. Just ask the Marine who proudly serves his country without hiding the husband that he loves. Democracy works, America, but we got to want it. Not just during an election year, but all the days in between. So if you agree that there's too much inequality in our economy, and too much money in our politics. We all need to be as vocal and as organized and as persistent as Bernie Sanders supporters have been during this election. We all need to get out and vote for Democrats up and down the ticket, and then hold them accountable until they get the job done. That's right, feel the burn. If you want more justice in the justice system, then we've all got to vote not just for a president, but for mayors and sheriffs and state's attorneys and state legislatures. That's where the criminal law is made. And we've got to work with police and protesters until laws and practices are changed. That's how democracy works. If you want to fight climate change, we've got to engage not only young people on college campuses, we've got to reach out to the coal miner who's worried about taking care of his family, the single mom worried about gas prices. If you want to protect our kids and our cops from gun violence, we've got to get the vast majority of Americans, including gun owners who agree on things like background checks, to be just as vocal and just as determined as the gun lobby that blocks change through every funeral that we hold. That is how change happens. Look, Hillary's got her share of critics. She has been caricatured by the right and by some on the left. She has been accused of everything you can imagine and some things that you cannot. But she knows that's what happens when you're under a microscope for 40 years. She knows that sometimes during those 40 years she's made mistakes, just like I have, just like we all do. That's what happens when we try. That's what happens when you're the kind of citizen Teddy Roosevelt once described. Not the timid souls who criticize from the sidelines, but someone who is actually in the arena, who strives valiantly, who errs, but who at the best knows in the end the triumph of high achievement. Hillary Clinton is that woman in the arena. She's been there for us, even if we haven't always noticed. And if you're serious about our democracy, you can't afford to stay home just because she might not align with you on every issue. You've got to get in the arena with her, because democracy isn't a spectator sport. America isn't about, yes, he will. It's about, yes, we can. And we're going to carry Hillary to victory this fall because that's what the moment demands. Yes, we can. Not yes, she can, not yes, I can. Yes, we can. There's been a lot of talk in this campaign about what America has lost. People who tell us that our way of life is being undermined by pernicious changes and dark forces beyond our control. They tell voters there's a real America out there that must be restored. This isn't an idea, by the way, that started with Donald Trump. It's been peddled by politicians for a long time. probably from the start of our republic. And it's gotten me thinking about the story I told you 12 years ago tonight, about my Kansas grandparents and the things they taught me when I was growing up. See, my grandparents, they came from the heartland. Their ancestors began settling there about 200 years ago. I don't know if they had their birth certificates, but they were there. And they were Scotch-Irish mostly. Farmers, teachers, ranch hands, pharmacists, oil rig workers. Hardy, small-town folk. Some were Democrats, but a lot of them, maybe even most of them, were Republicans. Party of Lincoln. And my grandparents explained that folks in these parts, they didn't like show-offs. They didn't admire braggarts or bullies. They didn't respect mean-spiritedness or folks who were always looking for shortcuts in life. Instead, what they valued were traits like honesty and hard work, kindness, courtesy, humility, responsibility, helping each other out. That's what they believed in. True things, things that last, the things we try to teach our kids. And what my grandparents understood was that these values weren't limited to Kansas. They weren't limited to small towns. These values could travel to Hawaii. They could travel even to the other side of the world, where my mother would end up working to help poor women get a better life, trying to apply those values. My grandparents knew these values weren't reserved for one race. They could be passed down to a half Kenyan grandson or a half Asian granddaughter. In fact, they were the same values Michelle's parents, the descendants of slaves, taught their own kids living in a bungalow on the south side of Chicago. They knew these values were exactly what drew immigrants here. And they believed that the children of those immigrants were just as American as their own. Whether they wore a cowboy hat or a yarmulke, a baseball cap or a hijab. America has changed over the years. But these values that my grandparents taught me, they haven't gone anywhere. They're as strong as ever. Still cherished by people of every party, every race, every faith. They live on in each of us. What makes us American, what makes us patriots, is what's in here. That's what matters. And that's why we can take the food and music and holidays and styles of other countries and blend it into something uniquely our own. That's why we can attract strivers and entrepreneurs from around the globe to build new factories and create new industries here. That's why our military can look the way it does. Every shade of humanity forged into common service. That's why anyone who threatens our values, whether fascists or communists or jihadists or homegrown demagogues, will always fail in the end. That is America. That is America. Those bonds of affection, that common creed. We don't fear the future, we shape it. We embrace it as one people, stronger together than we are on our own. That's what Hillary Clinton understands. This fighter, this stateswoman, this mother and grandmother, this public servant, this patriot, that's the America she's fighting for. And that is why I have confidence, as I leave this stage tonight, that the Democratic Party is in good hands. My time in this office, it hasn't fixed everything. As much as we've done, there's still so much I want to do. But for all the tough lessons I've had to learn, for all the places where I've fallen short, I've told Hillary, and I'll tell you what's picked me back up every single time. It's been you, the American people. It's the letter I keep on my wall from a survivor in Ohio who twice almost lost everything to cancer, but urged me to keep fighting for health care reform, even when the battle seemed lost. Do not quit. It's the painting I keep in my private office, a big-eyed green owl with blue wings, made by a 7-year-old girl who was taken from us in Newtown, given to me by her parents so I wouldn't forget. A reminder of all the parents who have turned their grief into action. It's the small business owner in Colorado who cut most of his own salary so he wouldn't have to lay off any of his workers in the recession, because he said that wouldn't have been in the spirit of America. It's the conservative in Texas who said he disagreed with me on everything, but he appreciated that, like him, I try to be a good dad. It's the courage of the young soldier from Arizona who nearly died on the battlefield in Afghanistan, but who has learned to speak again and walk again. And earlier this year, stepped through the door of the Oval Office on his own power to salute and shake my hand. It is every American who believed we could change this country for the better. So many of you who'd never been involved in politics, who picked up phones and hit the streets and used the internet in amazing new ways that I didn't really understand but made change happen. You are the best organizers on the planet, and I am so proud of all the change that you made possible. Time and again, you've picked me up. And I hope sometimes I picked you up too. And tonight, I ask you to do for Hillary Clinton what you did for me. I ask you to carry her the same way you carried me, because you're who I was talking about 12 years ago when I talked about hope. It's been you who fueled my dogged faith in our future, even when the odds were great, even when the road is long. Hope in the face of difficulty, hope in the face of uncertainty, the audacity of hope. America, you've vindicated that hope these past 8 years. And now I'm ready to pass the baton and do my part as a private citizen. So this year, in this election, I'm asking you to join me to reject cynicism and reject fear, and to summon what is best in us to elect Hillary Clinton as the next president of the United States and show the world we still believe in the promise of this great nation. thank you for this incredible journey. Let's keep it going. God bless you. God bless the United States of America.
Obama in full Sunday meeting mode, preaching to a choir which sang a chorus of amens. The first African-American president challenging Democrats to make history again. The biggest difference in this election, he said, is the very meaning of our democracy.
This was President Obama at his best. The most powerful endorsement that Hillary Clinton could ask for tonight, the strongest denunciation of Donald Trump as a candidate, as a businessman, his values. Barack Obama saying America is already great.
Now here is the woman to whom he said he would pass the torch. Hillary Clinton with a surprise appearance at her convention.
Look at this. You have the first black president of the United States in America embracing what he hopes is the first female president of the United States of America.
It is the physical passing of the torch right here.
Such bitter foes 8 years ago. John Dickerson's down at the podium.
Well, Scott, this was a speech, a sweeping speech about the history of America. He went back to America's founding. He also went back 12 years ago to his speech in 2004 when he first introduced the country to this kind of vision that he sketched out. He then talked about his presidency as a vindication of that vision, wrapping everybody in the hall in that project, reminding them that this was an enduring project that went beyond his candidacy. He then placed Hillary Clinton in that America, in that vision. In 2004, that speech he gave, when his supporters used to get down, they would play that speech to themselves. And now, here he is passing the torch. Nancy Cordes is down on the floor.
John, Barack Obama enjoys a campaign speech, and he enjoyed this one tonight, even though he was campaigning for someone else. He had a lot of memorable lines, but I think the one that will have the most lasting impact was when he said that Americans don't need a savior and they don't want to be ruled. A lot of people here have said a lot of things about Donald Trump tonight, but nothing quite as stark and succinct as that. My colleague Gayle King is on the floor as well. Let's go to her.
I can barely hear you. I just hear my name, so I will just start talking. I was sitting with a member of the Iowa delegation, and they said President Obama did this. He needed to show that he has confidence in Hillary Clinton, that he's not leaving a broken government, that he's leaving a better government, and who better to carry that on than Hillary Clinton? We had an interesting moment. 10 minutes before the speech ended, they said to me, Hillary Clinton's coming out. They had gotten a text from The Guardian in the UK and said Hillary Clinton was coming. I go, no way, she was on the stage. Back to you guys.
Gail, thank you so much. And Charlie, Barack Obama also saying there has never been a man or a woman more qualified than either Bill or me, he says, to be president of the United States than Hillary Clinton.
This was an aspirational speech about America, its strength, and its values. It was also a front row view of Hillary Clinton and what she stands for. She'll never quit. And finally, it was using Donald Trump's own words. And it was a goodbye from Barack Obama for what he was about and what he was leaving.
At a takedown of Donald Trump, Bob Schieffer, he likened the threat of Donald Trump to fascism, communism, and jihadists.
Well, what you saw tonight, and Democrats doubled down on it, and Donald Trump gave them the opening with those remarks he made today. Democrats are going to make this campaign as much about Donald Trump as about Hillary Clinton, and the message is going to be Donald Trump We can't afford an erratic person with his finger on the nuclear trigger. He is too dangerous to be president. This is going to be a rough campaign.
A rough campaign, and what a night it was. And this Democratic National Convention concludes tomorrow night. Hillary Clinton's acceptance speech.
For Nora, Charlie, Gail, John, and Bob, I'm Scott Pelley in Philadelphia. Convention coverage continues on your late local news and on our streaming news service, CBSN. Still ahead, a live edition of The Late Show with Stephen Colbert, and a final look from Philadelphia after this.